Joining us now is Brad Smith, a product of the Lewis College of Business and a hometown boy from here in Wayne County nearby, I should say.
That's right.
Brad is the CEO and president of Intuit, a company which we know well from its products like Quicken and TurboTax, and we really appreciate you being with us today.
Thank you, Bill. It's my pleasure to be here.
Excellent, Brad. Well, I'll tell you, let's get to the point. Hometown boy.
Absolutely.
CEO, president of Intuit. How does that happen?
I think it starts with the way you're raised and where you're raised. I grew up in a small town here called Canova, just outside of Huntington. I had Friday night lights every Friday night with the CK Wonders playing Wayne Pioneers. It was a great program to grow up in. Had great mom and dad who were role models for me, and I have two brothers, all of whom graduated from Marshall with me. And what I really took out of here as a lesson, which I think has carried with me throughout my life, is integrity, humility, and teamwork. Where we're from here, unlike some other places that I've lived since, is it doesn't matter what you do for a living. It matters who's your parents and how were you raised. And what I love about West Virginia is when I come home, they say, hey, are you a Wayne County Smith or a Cabell County Smith? And that's when you know you're home. And that really gives you integrity because it's basically the values. And then humility. The thing I love about West Virginia is I'm walking through the campus today, I'm meeting with deans. They introduce themselves with their first name. They don't talk about themselves as doctors or deans. And it's just such a humble culture. And then teamwork's life's a team sport, and you'll never find a West Virginian outside this state that when you actually call and say, hey, I need some help, that won't pick up the phone and help you because we always stick together.
No doubt. That's very well said.
Thank you.
I know that you graduated in the mid-'80s. A few changes on campus since that time. What do you think of Marshall today?
Oh, my goodness. It's amazing. I mean, I loved Marshall when I was here. But today I walked through the campus with Dr. Kopp, and we talked about the new buildings that have come up just in the last 20 years since I went to the school, and then the vision that he and the faculty have for the program overall. I was blown away. In fact, I love it when I'm actually outside the state and people will say, hey, you work with people from Harvard and Stanford and Yale, and how do you feel about your education versus theirs? I say, you know, there's really only two differences. Theirs costs $150,000 more, and we have a better football team. And I believe that. And Marshall is fantastic, and I love the dream and how it's growing.
Awesome. Well, appreciate your kind words. And, you know, when I think of my time here at Marshall, I'm always struck by those faculty members that have an impact on you. What lessons specifically do you think that you learned here during your time at Marshall? I know you talked about your hometown. Has helped you. I mean, you deal with technology, you deal in communication, so many different things when I read about your biography. How did the lessons here propel you forward, do you think, of what you took away from Marshall? Obviously, you wear the ring, so you must be proud
I wear
of
the
it.
ring proudly. I've worn it for 22 years.
Excellent.
I learned a lot from the professors here in the program. What I liked most about Marshall, it was always on the leading edge. It was progressive. It was looking for ways to take practical learning and knowledge in the classroom and apply it daily. And so, for example, I was talking about Dr. Kim, who it's amazing now, he's the dean of the College School of Business, and at the end of the day, he was here and I was a student of his, and he was also teaching a martial arts program, and I was teaching martial arts in Canova. And he didn't realize how much he'd inspired me because he brought experiences into a classroom environment, which then I was able to apply when I went home every evening. Excellent. If it was teaching karate students, and so that's what I love about Marshall is it taught me that you didn't have to have all the right answers, you simply had to know what questions to ask, and to take a risk and go out and apply it to a real-world experience. And I think that's what keeps Marshall on the leading edge.
When you spoke to our Marshall students today, I thought your comments, number one, were very inspirational, but a lot of the wisdom you left with them, I think, is very important as people from West Virginia like myself. What do you say to students when, you know, maybe there is a confidence in, you know, leaving hometown and, you know, rolling the dice like you did, but doing so well? How do you counsel them?
You know, one of the things that I wished I could be was a student today. The world that we're entering into in the next 25 years is profoundly different than the world we've had the last 25 years. I talked today about 4 fundamental shifts, and one of them is the next generation of customers and the next generation of employees and the next generation of business leaders are coming out of college today, and they're the digital generation. They grew up with PlayStations and iPhones, and they understand how to do multiple things at once. 8 out of 10 of them don't want to go to work for a company according to the national surveys. They actually want to be entrepreneurs. And they have no risk aversion. They're willing to take risk, and I think that's marvelous. The thing that I hope that the students of Marshall think about as they enter the workforce is don't ever forget how you were raised and where you're from. Because leadership is about being true to yourself. At Pepsi, when I first joined the company and I graduated from Marshall, they sent me to a communications school up in New York City, and it was to help me become a public speaker, but also to help me get rid of my accent.
Really?
Now, you can tell it hasn't been that successful. But what I discovered was shortly after I came back from that program, I had to give a speech amongst the Pepsi managers, and there were 50 of us presenting, and afterwards a bunch of people were saying, who was that kid with that accent? And since that day, I have embraced my accent, and I have embraced being from Marshall and West Virginia and all the things I was taught. And so I would tell students coming out of school today, first of all, you're better positioned than anybody in the workforce to lead in the next generation because you grew up with technology, and technology will be key. And the second is, don't ever try to change who you are. Play to your strengths, and you will be a wild success.
Excellent. Well, very well put, and I think words that even the older of us can live by in many ways. But
Oh, yeah.
Brad, we appreciate you coming back to campus. Hope we'll see you again in the near future, and I understand you're going to watch some football games here coming up soon. So seriously, safe travels home, and come back and see us soon.
Thank you, Bill. We are Marshall.
We are Marshall. Excellent. Brad, thanks so much.
Thank you.